Fellow Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, today is the 3rd day of June, the year of our Lord 2018. I bring to you all this very urgent and important piece of communication. I have just received information from Yaoundé, which I've taken the pains to confirm that Mr. Paul Biya, the 85-year-old dictator of La République du Cameroun, held a very restricted Security Council meeting this Sunday at 4:30 p.m. in his hometown in Mvomeka'a with a very select group of security officials whose loyalty to himself he doesn't doubt. Of course, you understand that a lot of them would definitely be people of his Beti clan. And that the crux of that meeting was actually to discuss ways of sending us back to sleep after Mr. Paul Biya has started seeing for himself that things are not the way he thought they would be. After Mr. Paul Biya has now understood that the world is gradually turning completely against him after the US ambassador to Yaoundé made his very strong statement indicting the Yaoundé regime and its terrorist security forces. My dear brothers and sisters of Ambazonia, in my last communication, I extended hearty congratulations to our comrades on Ground Zero, particularly those in the Northern Zone, who attended the meeting with Mr. Peter Mafani Musonge in Bamenda. Because Mr. Musonge has reportedly transmitted the message to Mr. Paul Biya that all is not well at all, that over 90% of those who sat through that meeting with him reminded him that the people of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia will never ever and do not ever want again to belong to any form of union with La République du Cameroun. I am convinced that the words of Honorable Pauline Joie have reached Mr. Paul Biya, that they can continue killing, that even if there are only 5 Ambazonians left, they will live free. I think he also got word that this venerable senator, this gentle lady senator of the Social Democratic Front, for the first time in the culture, in the history of the people of the grassfields, that a woman turned and addressed herself to the fronts, belittled them and reminded them that they had sold their birthrights, that they had sold every form of prestige that accompanied their offices as traditional rulers by joining politics and by belonging to the ruling CPDM party that has only one intention: enslaving and dehumanizing their own very people, the very people that enthroned them from one village to the other. And now back to that meeting that held today, this Sunday, at 4:30 p.m. in Mvomeka'a. This is a package Mr. Paul Biya prepares. 1. Security forces, the B and all whatnot, will be given plenty of money, plenty of provisions, plenty of resources to go out there and begin now showing a new human face to the same people that they have beaten, whose children and family members they have killed, whose grandparents and vulnerable ones they have roasted in houses, whose villages have been completely razed to dust. That these same security forces will now come distributing provisions, pretending to be very, very, very humane, pretending to be nice and wonderful people. To follow that, Mr. Paul Biya intends to pass an amnesty law that will say all those who escaped from the country, who have escaped, all of us who are in the diaspora, who have run away from persecution because they're chasing us, because they want to kill us, because they want to destroy our lives and our everything abroad, that we should come back home, that he will not hold it against us anymore, that all is well, and that he will also pass a law a clemency act ordering the release of all Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians arrested within the framework of this struggle. And then he will now bring out our own leader, Sisiku Ayuktabe, that they captured in Nigeria with the complicity of the Buhari government, and then cause Sisiku Ayuktabe to urge Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians to put down their arms and to call off the struggle so that we shall return to the table of dialogue with Mr. Paul Biya. And, you know, that will not be all. Mr. Paul Biya hopes that after that, he will now tell us, I'm very sorry for all of what happened, and they will give some compensations to the families of people who lost their loved ones in this struggle. My dear brothers and sisters, fellow Ambazonians, I want to ask this very important question. It is a wonderful thing that Mr. Paul Biya now thinks about peace. It is a wonderful thing that Mr. Paul Biya thinks about amnesty. It's a wonderful thing that Mr. Paul Biya is beginning to think that he can free all Ambazonians that he has captured. But the one fundamental question I want to ask, is it going to be possible for Mr. Paul Biya to bring back to life all those people, those young boys and girls that have been killed in virtually their thousands in southern Cameroons? Will he bring them back to life? Is Mr. Paul Biya going to restore the body parts of all of those who have been maimed? Is Mr. Paul Biya going to restore the dignity of the people of southern Cameroons that have been completely reduced to zero? I'd like to take this opportunity to remind Mr. Paul Biya, let him know that in his current status, Sisiku Ayuktabe can never successfully call off the struggle. He doesn't have the powers anymore. Not because we don't respect him, not because we don't obey him, not because he's not endeared to us, but because we know the circumstances in which he finds himself. Oh yes, because Mr. Paul Biya plans eventually to have a meeting with Sisiku Ayuktabe. Oh, that is how you negotiate. You capture somebody, you keep him incommunicado. How do you know his family have been surviving? Then after that you say, okay, I want to receive him now. Then let him call for an end to hostilities. Let me make this reminder to Mr. Paul Biya and let it be very sound and clear in his ears and in his head that by the same act he used to ban the consortium and the SCNC on the 17th of January 2017 in the heart of total dialogue, by the same act that he arrested the leaders and chased most of us, SCNC, consortium leaders, and all other social activists and militants of change out of the country, Mr. Paul Biya effectively ended dialogue. He threw dialogue out through the window. We continue to call for that dialogue. Successive consortium releases and eventually some releases of Skakov called for dialogue. Mr. Paul Biya rather declared war on us. And now, because he sees for himself that the international community is beginning to turn against him, because he has seen for himself that his so-called security forces are not that invincible, that they are very vulnerable in the face of very determined, motivated, and highly resilient young boys and girls who have refused to die, he now thinks they can now come and tell us, I'm ready for dialogue. Mr. Paul Biya, go home with this sound message. The people of southern Cameroon and Ambazonia will be free, whether you like it or not. Right now, it's no longer time for dialogue, Mr. Biya. Now is the time for negotiations. And the only item on the agenda for negotiations will be the terms of separations, so that at least we can live like good neighbors. Take note, Mr. Paul Biya, we will not be fooled anymore. We are not those political parties that you have been treating badly over the years. They beat you at elections, you rig the elections, and then you torture them, you beat them, then you call them and give them some little food and they begin singing your praises. No, Mr. Paul Biya, the people of southern Cameroon and Ambazonia are more than that. We are more than that. Take note, Mr. Paul Biya, it shall never be business as usual. Our brothers and sisters grandparents and parents and vulnerable people who have died in very funny circumstances laid their blood, they laid their lives on the premise that we were fighting to secure total freedom for future generations of Southern Cameroons. We have that social contract with them, and we are determined to keep that social contract. The only reason they accepted to die was for total freedom, not for some kind of, not for some kind of cosmetic arrangements that will keep again the people of Southern Cameroons in bondage. It is over, and Mr. Pobia, take note that it is over as in over. My dear brothers and sisters of Southern Cameroons, we must be wise. My dear brothers and sisters of Southern Cameroons, we have been fighting a good fight. We must stay resilient. My dear brothers and sisters of Southern Cameroons, the time of victory is very close. My dear brothers and sisters of Southern Cameroons, we have to hold on. We must hold on until that day where we shall all shout, free, free, and free at last. And we shall sing and dance to the tune of our anthem, Ambazonia, land of freedom. God is with us.